Welcome to a quiet corner of the universe where restless minds come to wander, reflect, and gently dissolve into the mysteries of human existence. Here, we explore the hidden chambers of consciousness, the unspoken truths that linger in the spaces between thoughts, and the quiet uncertainties that shape the way we love, fear, remember, and exist. These reflections are not crafted to disturb, but to illuminate the beauty that often lies beneath discomfort. The truth that darkness and light are inseparable halves of the same human experience. In this space, we acknowledge the fragility of our stories, the impermanence of our identities, and the silent struggles that shape each soul in ways no one else can fully witness. As you listen, you may notice familiar echoes, the subtle loneliness that exists even among crowds, the memories that shift their shape each time we revisit them, the illusions of control we cling to as the world moves independently of our plans. You may recognize the way time slips quietly past us, carrying away people, places, and versions of ourselves we once believed would last forever. You might feel the weight of unspoken regrets, words never said, risks never taken, and dreams postponed until they quietly faded into the background of life. Yet within all this impermanence lies a strangely comforting truth. We are temporary, but we are also aware, and this awareness gives each fleeting moment a profound, fragile beauty. Here, we peel back the many masks we wear, the roles we perform for the world, and the forgotten selves buried beneath years of adaptation. We reflect. As you settle deeper into this quiet space, you may begin to notice how much of your life has unfolded without your awareness. How many moments passed while your mind was lost somewhere between yesterday and tomorrow? We spend so much of our existence searching for meaning in distant places, yet overlook the simple truth that every breath, every heartbeat is already a miracle of impossible proportions. In the soft darkness, you might feel the subtle ache of memories you've long tried to forget, resurfacing not to hurt you, but to remind you of the person you once were and the dreams you quietly abandoned along the way. You may sense the fading outlines of versions of yourself that lived within you at different ages: childhood wonder, teenage longing, adult resilience, each one leaving traces in the corners of your soul. The world rarely gives us permission to pause and feel the full weight of our inner landscape. But here, away from expectations and noise, you can finally hear the whispers of your deepest self. The part of you that wonders what your life might have looked like if you had chosen differently, loved differently, dared differently. And yet, even in that wondering, there is peace, because every path not taken still exists within you as a quiet reminder that you are more than the sum of your choices. Tonight, allow yourself to rest in that in-between place where past and future blur into a single moment of awareness. Let the soft hum of existence wrap around you like a gentle veil, reminding you that you do not need to have all the answers. For now, it is enough simply to be here, breathing, feeling, existing in the vast and mysterious space of your own consciousness. As you settle deeper into this quiet space, you may begin to notice the subtle movements of your inner world, thoughts rising and falling like distant waves, emotions drifting through you with no fixed shape or name. This is the realm we often avoid during the noise of the day, yet it is here in the softness of night that the truth becomes gentle enough to approach. The mind, when finally allowed to breathe, reveals layers we forget exist. Old fears that once protected us, but now remain long after their purpose has faded. Forgotten dreams that still glow faintly beneath years of responsibility. And quiet hopes we hesitate to acknowledge because they feel too delicate to expose to the world. In these silent hours, you may feel the presence of versions of yourself you abandoned along the way. Selves that were curious, brave, tender, or unguarded before life taught you to build walls around your heart. You might sense how much of your identity has been shaped not by deliberate choice, but by circumstances, expectations, and the careful choreography of survival. And yet, beneath all the shaping, beneath the learned patterns and rehearsed responses, something authentic remains, soft, persistent, and quietly waiting for your attention. When you listen closely, you may hear the faint echo of that truth, that you have carried yourself through every moment of your life, even the ones no one else will ever know about. You have survived storms that left no visible scars, decisions that changed everything, and nights when simply continuing was an act of courage. In this space, you are invited to honor these invisible victories, to acknowledge the strength you rarely recognize in yourself. The night holds a certain honesty that daylight often obscures. It reminds you that it is okay not to have every answer, that uncertainty is not a failure, but a companion to growth. It whispers that nothing in your life has been meaningless. Not the pain, not the joy, not the moments that felt empty or lost. Each experience has shaped the quiet architecture of who you are becoming. Here, as your breath softens and your thoughts begin to loosen their grip, let yourself rest in the understanding that you are allowed to be unfinished, evolving, and profoundly human. Allow the weight you've been carrying to settle beside you instead of within you. Let your mind drift gently as though the universe itself is exhaling through you. As you settle deeper into this quiet inner landscape, you may begin to notice how your mind gently loosens its grip on certainty. The thoughts that once felt heavy start to drift like dust in a slow beam of light, revealing the quiet truth that much of what we cling to was never meant to stay. Here, in this soft stillness, we reflect on the versions of ourselves we have outgrown, identities we built to survive moments that no longer exist. These past selves linger like faint silhouettes, reminding us that growth often requires leaving behind people, ideas, and dreams we once believed were permanent parts of our story. In this moment of reflection, you may realize how often you've carried burdens that were never yours to hold, expectations quietly inherited from others, and silent responsibilities shaped by fear rather than desire. You may see how your spirit has stretched itself thin, trying to be understood by those who could not hear your inner voice, and how your heart has dimmed at times to avoid shining too brightly in places that were never ready for your light. And yet, despite all this, you are still here, breathing, sensing, learning, and slowly becoming someone more honest, more aware, and more deeply connected to your own truth. As the night deepens, allow the distance between who you were and who you are becoming to soften. Let the unspoken chapters of your life rest gently beside you, not as weights, but as quiet teachers. Every mistake, every fear, every moment of confusion has shaped your understanding of what it means to live, to hope, to lose, and to begin again. And perhaps this is the quiet miracle of being human, that even in our most fragile moments, we continue to unfold, to redefine ourselves, and to search for meaning in places we once overlooked. Here, in this space, where nothing demands your certainty, you are free to simply exist as a soul in transition, as a consciousness observing itself, as a traveler moving through the deep mystery of being alive. Let this awareness cradle you gently as you drift toward sleep, reminding you that you are not meant to have all the answers. You are only meant to feel, to notice, and to awaken, slowly, honestly, and in your own time. As you settle deeper into the quiet, let your mind wander toward the subtle truths that often slip past in the rush of daily life. Truths that whisper from the spaces we rarely pause long enough to notice. These truths do not demand urgency. They do not insist on being solved. They simply exist, like distant stars whose light travels endlessly toward us, arriving only when we are still enough to see it. There is a part of you, ancient and unhurried, that has survived every version of yourself you've ever been. Long before you learned your first fear or shaped your first dream, something within you watched the world with quiet curiosity. This awareness, soft, patient, and often ignored, has carried you through every transformation without ever announcing its presence. It appears in the pauses between your thoughts, in the quiet ache behind your ribs when you remember something long lost, in the gentle pull you feel whenever life reveals a mystery too large for the mind to hold. In this inner space, the world becomes softer. The harsh lines of identity blur. Your name, your roles, your accomplishments, your mistakes, all the outer layers of the self begin to dissolve into something wider and more fluid. You realize that much of what you cling to is simply habit, a collection of stories told to you by society, family, memory, and fear. You begin to see how often you behave not from desire, but from expectation, not from authenticity, but from survival. And yet, beneath those layers, there is a version of you untouched by performance, a version that has watched every joy and every sorrow without judgment. This quiet self has no need to impress the world. It carries no shame, no pride, no urgency to be understood. It simply exists, unburdened and complete in its own gentle awareness. Most people never meet this inner presence because the world teaches us to look outward, toward goals, toward validation, toward constant distraction, but it has never stopped waiting for you to return. As the outer noise fades, you may begin to sense how much of your life has been shaped by things you never chose. You inherited ways of thinking, patterns of emotion, and unspoken rules from generations before you. People who themselves lived quietly, shaped by the invisible histories of their own ancestors. The fears that hold you back may not be yours. The expectations that weigh on your shoulders may come from voices long gone. Even your deepest self-criticisms may be echoes of someone else's pain, passed down without anyone noticing. And yet, within this recognition lies a gentle freedom. You're not obligated to carry what was never meant for you. Here, in this quiet space, you can begin to let go, slowly, softly, without force. You can release the identities that no longer feel like home, the worries that never belonged to you, the roles that were necessary once but now only confine you. You can start to see yourself not as a fixed shape, but as something shifting and alive, constantly evolving with each breath, each thought, each moment of awareness. As you drift further inward, you may notice how fragile each moment truly is. The things you cling to, your beliefs, your opinions, your memories, are constantly changing, even when you insist they are not. Every time you recall a moment from your past, you reshape it slightly, tinting it with who you've become since. Your mind edits, restructures, softens, or sharpens the details, turning the past into a living story rather than a static truth. What you remember is not what happened. It is what you have chosen, consciously or not, to hold on to. And yet, this fragility is beautiful. If memories were fixed and unchangeable, we would be trapped forever within their boundaries. Instead, we are free to reinterpret, to understand, to heal. The past shifts because you shift. The story changes because you change. Your life is not a single unalterable narrative. It is a fluid, ever-evolving expression of the mind's attempt to make sense of a world too vast to fully understand. Even the people you once knew, those who shaped you, hurt you, loved you, or passed through your life briefly, exist differently now in the chambers of your mind. Some grow softer with time, their sharp edges worn down by distance. Others fade into silhouettes, their voices muted until they feel like characters from a dream. A few remain vivid, their presence woven into the fabric of who you are, influencing your choices long after their footsteps have vanished from your days. As you reflect on these unseen influences, you may notice how much of life unfolds without your permission. Moments arrive unexpectedly, altering your path before you have a chance to understand their significance. You meet people who feel like accidents but become pivotal chapters in your story. You lose people you thought would stay forever. You encounter events, tiny or enormous, that redirect your path in ways you only recognize years later. Life is both delicate and unpredictable, shaped as much by chance as by intention. And yet, within this uncertainty lies a profound tenderness. If everything were predictable, life would lose its depth. If every joy lasted forever, we would forget its sweetness. If every sorrow could be anticipated, we would never learn resilience. It is the impermanence of things, their fleeting nature, that gives them meaning. As you lie here, breathing softly, you may begin to feel the quiet truth that every moment is both a beginning and an ending. Each breath carries within it the memory of every breath that came before, and the possibility of every breath that may follow. You are always becoming, even now, even in stillness. You're always unfolding into a deeper version of yourself. And in this unfolding, you may finally recognize one of the most overlooked truths of human existence. You do not need to understand everything in order to be at peace. You do not need to solve every question. You do not need to carry every burden. You do not need to be certain in order to rest. Sometimes peace arrives not from answers, but from surrender, from allowing yourself to be exactly where you are, without resistance, without judgment, without the constant pressure to be more, know more, achieve more. Here, in this gentle corner of the universe, nothing is required of you. Here, you are enough simply because you exist. Here, your inner world can breathe without fear of being seen or misunderstood. Let yourself drift deeper into this silence, deeper into awareness, deeper into the quiet truth that you are both temporary and miraculous, fragile and luminous, small and immeasurably vast. Here, your journey continues inward, softly, slowly, endlessly,